All right, guys. After yesterday and you got into the big mixed numbers, I wondered if any of you were saying, well, I'd rather subtract because it's harder to make sure that you're regrouping and doing the mixed numbers and improper fractions and all those things. Well, guess what? They just gave us the easy subtraction ones yesterday. So we're going to subtract with renaming, which means with borrowing. And so I'm going to show you what I think works the best for me. And remember, this is always what works best for me, and it's so important for you to figure out what works for you. One way of renaming the first mixed number. So here we go. To practice for a race, Kara is running 2.5 miles. When she reaches the end of her street, she knows that she has already ran 1 5/6 miles. How many miles does she have left to run? Well, left tells us we're going to subtract. So we're going to estimate first, which I think we should do all the time. And obviously, in my last lesson, I didn't estimate any of the problems. So I'll try to be better today about that so you get in the habit of that. 2.5. So I'm going to make that go to a 3 minus 1 5/6. Well, 5/6 is close to 6/6, so that'd make it another whole one. So I'm going to change that to a 2 because it carried over. So 3 take away 2 is 1. Okay, so the first thing they say is find the common denominator. Using the common denominator. Okay, so if we look at this, if we find the common denominator, which they showed us here, they did. So I'm going to think 2 6/10 equals 1 plus 1 plus 6/12, which is 1 plus 1/12 plus 6/10 plus 6/10, so that's 6/18. So how did they get 18/12? Well, we know how they got 18/12. We've done this before. So when you do this, we first got to find the common denominator. So let's not jump so many steps here. So they found the common denominator as 12. So they just took 2 times 6 and they got 12. So then they took this times, what did they do to get a 12 here? Took it times 6. So this times 6. So then they got 6/12. Here they took this times 2, got 12. Took this times 2, they got 10/12. So then they found this as their new problem. So once they have that as a new problem, then they said, well, I've got a common denominator. But if I look at this, I got 2 6/12. Well, I have a problem if I'm going to subtract my fraction right away, which you should do. You should always subtract your subtraction part. But if I look here, I can't take 10/12 out of 6/12. I have a problem. I don't have it, but I really do have it. I have 2 whole ones here. So 2 whole ones is the same as I could steal from here, or I could regroup and borrow and have 1. Well, how much is this 1 worth that I borrowed? It's worth 6/12. So now I have 12/12, sorry. It's worth 12/12, because to make a whole number, we have to have 12/12. So it's worth 12/12. So we got to add that whole one to what we have already here. Even though we're subtracting, it's 12/12. So now we have 18/12, which is an improper fraction, which we've done before. So now I have 1 18/12. Well, now I'm okay because I can take 18/12, subtract 10/12, and I get 8/12. Correct? I do. Now I have 1 take away 1, which is a 0, 8/12. So when I look at this, I got to simplify because that's my job. So 6/12, if I simplify it, I know I can take them both by what? If I do the multiples of 8, 2, 4, 8 are the factors of 8 is 2, 4, and 8. Well, what can go divide both of these into? 4. I could do 2, but I'm going to have to simplify more, so I'm going to do my biggest. So 8 divided by 4 equals 2. 12 divided by 4 equals 3. So I have 2/3. 2/3 is very close to 1 whole. So that's one way of doing it. It seems like a long ways. I don't know. We'll practice that way. I would like us to practice a couple of those. Some of you, I'm sure, are totally lost. Let's just keep practicing. Here's another way. When I subtract fractions with a mixed number, this is the way I like to do it. It just seems to, I don't know, it works for me to do it this way. So when I do it this way, this is changing your mixed number into an improper fraction right off the bat. So if you do that, you're changing both of them. So remember how we did changing it into an improper fraction. We took 2 times 2, which is 4, plus the numerator. So this is 5/2. Then I look at this and I do the same exact thing. I change them both to an improper fraction. So 1 times 6 is 6 plus 5 more, which is 11/6. And you're saying, well, that doesn't look good. But we haven't subtracted it yet. So I'm going to do 5, 6. Now I'm going to find a common denominator between the two of these. And I know my common denominator is a 6. So I got a 6 and a 6, right? So what did I do to get from this 6 to this 6? Well, I didn't do anything. That stays the same. What did I do here to get to a 6? Well, 2 times 3 got me to 6. So I got to take this times 3 and I have 15. Well, now look at here. I've got... Here I have 15, 6 subtracted by 11, 6, and I get my answer of 4, 6. So 4, 6 is not in its simpler form. What can I divide them both by? 2. I get 2/3. And I still get the 2/3 that I got when I worked it that other way, this way. Now, you have to decide which works easier for you, is to borrow or rename, which we did on this side, or to make them improper fractions right off the bat. I don't know which way works, but guess what? We'll try them both ways here again. You decide what's going to work best for you. Now, you cannot just copy what I'm doing. You have to think as we're working this. So we're going to estimate first. Woohoo! 4.5. So that's going to go to a 5. And 3 5/4 is going to go to a 4 because 4/5 is close to a whole. I know my answer is going to be about 1. So the first time we're going to do it, we're just going to subtract and rename. So we're going to do 4.5 subtracted by 3 4/5. So the first thing I'm going to do is find my common denominator, and I'm going to find the least common denominator, which I know is 10, because my multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. My multiples of 5 are 5 and 10. So what I do to get to 10? 2 times 5 got me to 10. So 5 times 1 is 5. And 5 times what got me there is 8, or 2. And I'm trying to go fast. 8 into 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Now here's where put my whole numbers here. Here's where my problem came on. Look, what can I do? I can't do that. So, because I can't take 8 out of 5. So what am I going to do? I'm going to borrow. That's going to be a 3 because I borrowed. And what's a whole here? It is 10 tenths. And guess what? We need to go to the next video, guys.